Welcome to the breakfast that officially opens Sunway, the Vino 2016. I say Sunway because I know you started last evening with this very interesting gathering, putting together Italian wine and American football. That was a quite nice experience. I was flying back from Miami to New York for another event that we had there dedicated to fashion. But I'm very happy to be with you this morning. My name is Maurizio Forte. I'm the Italian Trade Commissioner here in New York and the Executive Director for the USA Italian Trade Commission Network. Together with me, there are two important speakers. This morning event is John Fredrickson and Giuseppe Martelli, and they will talk about wine, of course, but from the two different perspectives, the Italian one and the American one, and hopefully saying good things about the future we can have in this market. Vino is now a kind of usual appointment in New York. This is the 5th edition. We are very proud to be part of an Italian wine week that has been also the appreciation of Mayor de Blasio that has said that this is a very important event to strengthen the ties between Italy and New York City, also in terms of culture, because wine is a good thing to drink, but it's mainly, especially for Italy, culture, history, and territory. A very big event together with important partners. We started already with the Slow Wine event on the 3rd of February. We will end on the night tomorrow also with Gambero Rosso Tre Bicchieri event. In the meanwhile, we have 11 seminars, almost 200 importers, journalists, distributors. That is you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation coming from all over US. And this is a very sparkling moment for the Italian wine, the US market, with a very big increase last year, more than 20%. So far so good. Everything is positive, but as we said during the press conference, when you are on the top, you really have to care of your position, because it's good to be on top, but it's also dangerous, and you can some way fall down if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention, if you're not promoting, if you're not supporting your image, if you're not supporting your producers. So this is a good message. I hope you will have a good time here, that our assistance is effective for all of you. You're going to have good meetings and also meet new companies, because we have almost 1/4 of the companies that are new in the market. So also new business opportunities for all of you. I don't want to take too much of your time. Just saying again, thank you very much for being here. Enjoy your stay. Have good and profitable business meetings. And now I'm glad to introduce you the General Manager of Asso Enology, Giuseppe Martelli, for his presentation about what is the wine in Italy, how was the last campaign, 2015, that seems to be excellent. So, again, welcome, enjoy your breakfast, and thank you very much for being with us.
Buongiorno a tutti. Come diceva Dottor Forte, mi chiamo Giuseppe, per me è un grande piacere. Il mio compito è quello di tracciare un quadro
to give a picture of the wine growing sector in Italy. I'm speaking slowly so that the interpreting may be adequate and without any problem. First of all, an embrace, as the first slide says, for over 6,500 kilometers, the distance between Italy and the United States. You see the country in yellow, 6,500 kilometers away from the United States. This image gives you an idea of the difference in surface between the two countries, and it also gives you an idea of how Italy lies in the sea, and its particular position creates a synergy between mountains, hills, and the sea, and all this creates microclimates, specific microclimates, so that from north to the south, including the two major islands. They are literally called for excellence for wine growing in order to create great wine. It's no chance that for 2,000 years, for 3,000 years almost, it's been called Inotria, namely the land of wine. A typical Italian characteristic is that Italy is maybe the only country in the world where vines follows the territory from the north to the south, mixing between region and region, and creating cultures, traditions, which go from one territory to another. This is an important fact to stress, because in the end it allows us to understand the great number of products characterizing Italian wine industry, in particular their connection with history, culture, tradition, millenary traditions in our country. The wine grape surface in Italy is 643,000 hectares. This is the most recent data. As I wrote in this slide, every company, the average company, the average vineyard and winery surface area is about 7 hectares. And this is a characteristic to underscore the difference and the specific characteristic of our vineyards and wine, which are connected with a millenary tradition. In Italy, wine grape companies are more than 600,000, so we have many of them. Producers, they give their grapes. 50% of the entire production are given to the cooperatives, whose purpose is to make wine from the production from small companies, and also they sell it. The same can be said about the number of companies which bottle wines. We have approximately 20,000 bottling companies. It's quite a high number, but 75% of these companies have a limited, highly qualified production, so they mainly sell it to people who are within the company or the region. As I was saying before, approximately 50% of the production in winery cooperatives, the companies or producers, while 50% is reserved to the industry, the wine growing companies, private companies. More than 50% of our production, Italian wine production, is sold abroad with excellent results, which we're going to see in a few minutes. After this brief introduction to Italian production, let's see the world aspect of the wine industry. Here we have a summary of this concept, meaning that world production of wine, based on the data from the last 5 years, is 27 billion liters. 60% of this percentage, 60%, is produced in the European Union, 17% of world production, and 28% of European production are Italian. They're all products in our peninsula and in the two main islands. There are some difference in production. For example, in 2014, Italy produced a little more than 42 million hectoliters. In 2015, so this past year, the Italian production went up to 47.6 million hectoliters, so much so that Italy, let's say just to brag a little, since we're proud of this, I want to underscore that only after 2 years, it's become the main wine-producing country in the world. Producing wine is important, but what really counts is producing quality wine, as we mean it in Italy, at every level of production. So not only quality is relevant for important costly wine, noble wines, but all wines, also the most simple so-called table wine, the everyday wine, needs to have a quality standard which reflects, as the experts say here, and John is one of the international experts, the ratio quality-price for the basic wine, and also the price-quality-image ratio for the wider range level wines.
Perché il
As we were saying, this is important. Why? Because 2015 for Italy was a magic year. We produced a lot, but we produced also quality at each individual level that is amongst the best of the last 30 years. Then, of course, in time, we will learn how the feelings and the emotions that these wines give will evolve. But at this point, this is what we can say. And I think you will have an opportunity, at least for the younger wines, to taste them from the companies that are part of this important event for Italian wine in the United States. Here we go. But as we get to the nitty-gritty, what is the classification for the Italian wines? Well, normally, we classify everything into a pyramid, such as this one, where on the base we have the regular wine, the simple wine, the one that once was called table wine, that can be produced with any kind of grape that is cultivated throughout the peninsula, white, red, and rosé, which is 30% of the current Italian production of wine. Think that only 40 years ago, this product, the basic wine, was 90% of the Italian production. So we went to a much less important number at this point. And then we go up to the protected geographic indication wine. Some wines still show IGT, which is the same classification. There are 18 in Italy altogether. Those are the so-called area wines. They are produced in a rather large area, and they represent 33% of the wine production in Italy. And then on the tip of the pyramid, we have the top wines, the protected origin denomination wine. This is really at the top of this classification pyramid. pyramid. There are 405 altogether. It's 37% of the production. And this hat, this top of the pyramid, is basically made up of the so-called controlled and protected denomination wines, and the controlled and guaranteed origin denomination wine. So I'm sure that you will be able to taste and analyze all of these wines through your thanks to all of the companies that are part of this great event in New York. And then John will explain all of his notes, all of his ideas on the market. I just want to stress that 2014 for Italian wines ended up with an increase of 1.4% in revenue and 1.1% in volume, as opposed to 2013. People may say these are not double-digit numbers. However, Italy is coming out, together with many countries, it's coming out of 7 years of crisis, which is very present and can be touched and felt on people's skin in Italy. So thanks to the foresight of our producers and our companies that are we're so good, and we're able to create a product that is admired throughout the world. Well, I believe that this growth, although small but constant in time, is a reason of pride, and it stresses it basically goes along with the title that I gave to my presentation, which is to say the world loves Italian wine. The first few months of 2015 tell us that the volume went down by 2.41%, but the value increased by 5.46%. So we are very proud of this, because the spread that I was giving before between 90%, it used to be 90% of regular table wines and 10% of better wines, that now is much more balanced. So the quality of Italian wines has increased, and it's now the strength of the Italian producers in the world. Nobody can deny that the Italian sparkling wines are having incredible performances. We used to have only Asti, that was sold by the million bottles. Now we have also Prosecco that is also conquering more and more areas in the market in the United States. It's a typically Italian product that is liked throughout the world, and is improving by the day. The entire sector went from 13.6 billion euros in 2007 to 15 billion at the end of 2015. To this, we need to add at least 3 billion euros. Since I'm speaking to journalists, expert in the field, as I was saying, we have to add 3 more billions in terms of machineries and accessories in the wine industry, because the Italian technology is the first in the world in this sector. Why? Well, exactly because of the variety of our peninsula has boosts. There are so many different technologies that are represented, and there is a constant evolution of this technology that produced a very aggressive research effort. And so the new wineries, the modern wineries, show a lot of technology in Italy. I would like to conclude with a couple of figures on the 2015 production. As I said before, we had a larger production, and it was also an excellent year, depending on the areas, but it went from excellent to outstanding. It was really a year that was far superior, at least by 13% to 2014. That was the worst in the past 50 years because there were some climate conditions in 2014 that was definitely not conducive to making good wine. 2015 had a great cycle in terms of climate that pushed the accumulation of positive substances for the quality of the grape. And those were transferred into the production of the wine. We had a period of time in which we had to hold our breath because it was very hot around July and the beginning of August. And then, luckily, we started having some rain, light rain, that together with the sunny days determined an excellent October that produced the wonderful quality that I described before. For the people who love numbers, I would like to stay within the time that was assigned to me. For those who love numbers, I can show you these charts, and you can have from the Italian Trade Commission in New York can provide them to you. As you can see, in the first column, there are the most productive Italian regions. The production from 2010 to 2014, and then the production in 2014, which, as I was saying before, was rather low, and then the production in 2015. As you can see, Veneto is the region that produces the largest amount of wine. It has a very good performance. It is also the one that exports the most wine as opposed to the others, although all of the regions have had an enormous increase in terms of production. This is another slide that shows the difference in production from 2014 and 2015 and gets to a total of 47 million hectoliters as opposed to the 42 million hectoliters in 2014 and an average of the previous 5 years of 44 million. So now I want to thank you for your attention, and I wish you all the best for this event, during the event, for you, for your appreciation of Italian wine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martelli. I think he gave very interesting numbers. Few of them deserve, in my opinion, to be underlined. We don't want to be nationalistic, but figures are figures. So Italy is definitely the first producer and the first exporter in the world of wine in quantity. We have to work on value, but also the numbers about this point are quite positive, because last year we exported less in quantity, 2.1, and more in value, 5.5. So we have to continuously trying to elevate the quality, the image, the perception of Italian wine, and consequently also the unit prices of wine. Doesn't mean that the Italian wine must become expensive, but of course we think that there is room to have a better and better and better positioning of our wine in the international markets, including, of course, the American one. Now it's the moment of John. We will talk about more the American side. Thank you very much, John. We are curious to listen to you.
Buongiorno. I'm going to talk in English if you understand that. I also bring good news, and I'm so happy to hear about the enlarged vintages and great quality, because that will fit very well with what's happening in the U.S. market right now. It is mixed, however. Giuseppe touched on the changing circumstances with lower priced wines declining. That certainly is continuing in the U.S. market. And there are also many other competitive developments that are affecting our market as we speak. So the numbers I'm presenting are based on not finals. Imports are final. We just got the final DOC reports on Friday, so I'll present some very good news for you at the end. But some of these numbers are still estimates based on 11 months. We believe that the U.S. market grew to some 383 million cases, total shipments into trade channels last year, an all-time high, up about 2% in total, driven by Proseccos and other sparkling wines. Total sparkling wines were the big star of the market last year, up 10% or more in the U.S. So that was a very strong result. Also, wines over 14%, which are generally characterized as being higher quality wines from around the world that tend to be over 14%, are indicated by the second line there, up 12%. We believe those are running at a double-digit rate. But what did not grow was the general category of table wines under 14% because of this changing circumstance with declining sales of wines priced below $9 or $10. Here you see a trend in food stores where wines below $9 are declining, but wines above $9 are increasing, and that started 3 years ago, coincidentally, just when craft beers began to take off in the U.S. And I believe there's a strong correlation between those segments. The good news is food store sales in the U.S. grew by more than they have in the last 4 years. Last year. So the trend is picking up as higher-end wines are growing and offsetting the declines at the bottom of the market. Here again, you see the declines on the left-hand side with up to 3 and 3 to 7 declining over the last 4 years, but higher-end wines, and especially the sweet spot, 10 to 14, growing at very high rates last year, and there's a lot of Italian wines in that segment. So here you see again the same pattern. These are universal, with lower price wines, as Giuseppe was saying, declining as the market has moved up, in some instances because craft beer is grabbing some of that lower price segment of the market. But here we see a very good performance for higher priced Italian wines in U.S. food stores. Thus, the change in mix is driving up dollar sales as people are moving upscale, and the mix is changing, up 6% in revenues over the past year. So if you look at the market by segment, with the vast under $10 everyday wines versus upscale premium wines, you see a dramatic change. And here, this is just California table wines under 10, but it would be applied to all wines in this category. You see that craft beer shipments unbelievably have doubled over the past 4 years, and the number of breweries has doubled over the past 4 years. And I believe that this certainly is grabbing some of the traditional everyday wine consumers as people are buying these products. Similarly, cider has taken some share as some people are trying cider, although cider certainly has slowed in the last year. Also, of course, cocktails are grabbing a lot of those millennial consumers who are stepping up, looking at cocktails and spirits, all grabbing some of wine shares. We also see an incredibly competitive market as the number of producers around the world has increased. California wineries up over 4,000, wineries in other states 3,000. The breweries are up over 4,000. There's at least 15,000 wine brands. Interesting, the number of brands you talked about in Italy, 600,000 growers. Though there's a lot more people around the world that want to get into the U.S. So the distribution system is in total overload, and trying to get anything through the system becomes more and more difficult, especially with the recently announced consolidation. So you in the trade know how tough this is getting to be. I always point out the number of TTB approvals, 138,000 SKUs approved by the TTB in 2015. On sale also tough as the craft beers, cocktails are eating into some of the wine lists, making it tougher and tougher to maintain wine's momentum on sale, as part of our business is being cannibalized by other alcoholic beverages. Meanwhile, in food stores, you see the same pattern drilled down here by price point. You see the growth in wines above $9 and $10 in every category except the $4 to $5 category, declining last year. But here's just $9 and up this double-digit rate, 12% in dollar. These are not dollars; these are units. So the higher end of the market is growing at around 12%. You see premium wines by these are total, not just total wines from around the world. Very strong sales in Cabernet. This is the 10 to 14 price category. Up 19%, 24% Sauvignon Blanc, a lot of that in New Zealand. Chardonnay, red blends, all growing. The whole category up by 1.4 million cases, or 16%. And red blends, again, the highest one category, lots of Italian red blends in this category, up 674,000 cases in food stores, up 9%. So the good news is, as the dollar has fallen, of course, wines from Italy and Europe are really growing again. And last year, total imports hit, including bulk, 131 million cases in the U.S., with bottled wines alone up 8%. You take out cider, up 6%. Imports made up about 31% of total shipments into U.S. trade channels last year, and the value climbed to a total of $5.5 billion, an all-time high. And you could see the growth in Italy there on the very bottom, the pillar of the base, very healthy growth overall. Italy has by far the biggest share of both volume and dollars, and amazingly, with the strong growth in Proseccos and Italian table wines, along with French sparkling wines, the value of just French and Italian wines are now 63% of all imported value. That's a huge increase in share. Italy had by far the most growth in packaged wines in the U.S. market. These are the final figures, just came out on Friday, up 2.3 million cases in volume, far surpassing any other nation. And France was second. Sparkling wines, Prosecco, drove these numbers, and this is a trend that is likely to continue as millennials are glomming on to Proseccos and other sparkling wines. So we look for continued growth this year. Total table wines alone hit an all-time high in Italian table wines, up 3.7% after being flat because of the declining segments of everyday wines. But now the growth in higher-end Italian wines is very strong, so that the final figures here, What a report card. These are the final for 2015. You see across the board a very strong growth with total bottled in bulk from Italy up 7.5%, 2.5 million cases. So congratulations to all the importers that are doing this, and I certainly look for continued growth along these lines next year as the euro is likely to stay where it is or maybe decline, who knows. So anyway, congratulations and good selling in 2016.
Congratulations to you, John. It's a very nice presentation, very full in numbers, figures, and comparison among categories, countries. Excellent job. Unfortunately, time is running short. We cannot go very deep, but it's very interesting. I think it's food for thought for all of us. Now, as you know, in a few minutes we have 2 seminars that are going to start. So for those that already booked the participation, you of course are welcome to attend these 2 seminars. And then from 11, we start the grand tasting, the big event everybody's waiting for is upstairs. But just to digest better the breakfast, if you have any questions for, especially our 2 speakers, I think they will be glad to answer and to start discussion and to go deeper in some figures, in some insight about the market and the Italian production for 2015. Any question? Sure, everything is clear. You have one, Stefania. Here. Stefania Pepe è una produttrice italiana, abruzzese.
Hello, good morning, and thank you for the interesting speech. I would like to know something about organic wine, because I'm an organic winemaker in Abruzzo, and there is nothing about organic. And second, I have one boy that is working with me that is making beer, so I'm interested also in beer. How it is this big preference, growth on the handcrafted beer. There is anything similar about handcrafted wines?
John, I think.
I'm not sure if I understand the question fully. Are you talking about beer or wine?
Both.
Wine first and then beer after. 2 questions.
Okay. Well, organic wines are growing. They had a run-up in popularity starting perhaps 5 years ago, and they are still of interest. In California, there are still limited production, so they've really kind of held back as far as American production goes. There is interest in organic wines, but it's a very small percentage of the market. It's not significant enough to really even talk about at a meeting like this. It's a very small percentage, but it is growing, and there's certainly a part of the population that's interested in that. Now, you're talking about handcrafted beers, craft beers. Craft beers are just flying off the shelves, huge interest among especially millennials, echo boomers, as well as many other portions of the population, including women. I saw one report that 15% of the craft beer drinkers are now women, and with growing amounts. Craft beers are delivering so much of what wine used to. They're having beer dinners, comparative tastings, all the things that you do with wine, the beer people have copied, so it's all building the craft beer segment. So I think it's got a long way to run, and it's certainly impacting many parts of the wine industry.
Thank you. Any other question? So it's good for some fitness in the morning.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I just have one question. With the rising prices of California commercial wines, how is Italy going to market their wines to compete with them on a level? Because it's getting to the point where the California wines that are becoming so popular are getting more and more expensive, kind of like college education these days. How can Italy match that in today's market with more of like a commercial wine that's gonna appease to the millennials and the people that are buying the California wines?
Well, let's clarify a few things. First, you have to look at it by segment. You saw the growth in this $10 to $14 really sweet spot, and then even $10 to $20 is a category that is absolutely ripe for growth. So in that category, California wines are not really going up in price. I think when you're making a generalization, you're talking about high-end Napa wines are going up. Many of these wines are $50, $75, $100, $200 a bottle, in that range. These are luxury wines. So in the luxury segment, yeah, there's a strong franchise, and many collectors are buying those wines because of 4 strong vintages out of California. But what I'm hearing is that in 2015, there was a very plentiful Italian vintage with very good quality, if that's what I understand from Giuseppe, which means that with the increased quantity and a very weak euro, it's a great opportunity for importers to battle back and sell wines into the sweet spot with a lot of growth potential, I think. So I think that there's plenty of room for Italian wine growth, especially in this $10 to $20 price range.
Please, Bill.
Bill Earl, National Association of Beverage Importers. I'd just like the reaction of the panel to the evolution of sparkling wine in Italy, Prosecco particularly. This is a huge market in the U.S., but as we saw probably 20 years ago with France and Champagne, it got to be generic almost until we kind of corrected the French definition or the U.S. definition of champagne. Do you see the same kind of threat to Prosecco, with it being hugely popular, but starting to emigrate to all parts of the world in terms of production? We know that the Italians protect the DOC and the DOCG of Prosecco, but is there a risk of that becoming a generic term and then Italy losing some of that traction for Prosecco?
I would like both speakers to say something, please.
I don't think there's much risk because times have changed. What you're referring to, sparkling wines hit a previous peak in 1984 and declined in the United States all the way through 80s, 90s, 2000. It was only in 2014 or 15 that we actually resumed, hit the level we had back in 84. That decline came about not necessarily from, there was an issue of the use of champagne, and there still is a controversy with some producers in California using that because they got it grandfathered in. I don't think anybody's going to use Prosecco because that's a different circumstance and different laws. And I see a lot of momentum in the category because it is being adopted, especially by millennials and young women, and it's for once being used to consume in non-celebratory times. So people are drinking Prosecco every day as an alcoholic, as a beverage to enjoy, and they're not just waiting for the times to celebrate. So I think all these things mean that it certainly has a nice room to grow and run for a while.
Giuseppe, if you want to have something.
Sì,
Yes.
indubbiamente il
Undoubtedly,
problema che lei ha
The
cortesemente
issue
sollevato
that you raised exists.
Diciamo che ben
say
conscio
that
agli imprenditori e
This
produttori
is
italiani
something that Italian producers and wine growers are aware of, and I think that the only
l'unica forza contraria
strength
affinché il
in
Prosecco
opposition
rimanga tale e continui
so that
la sua
Prosecco
evoluzione
may continue its
sia
evolution
proprio nel
and remain number
controllo,
one.
nella qualità e nella tipicità
Everything
del
depends on the quality control and the specific characteristics of the product. Certain products, since they sell
vanno molto bene sui mercati,
and they sell very
poi
well on
perdono
different
la
markets,
loro individualità,
at a
delle
certain
loro
point they may
caratteristiche,
lose their
vengono un po',
individual characteristics
diciamo, messi all'ammasso.
and they may be set
In Italia
aside.
ci sono stati
In
degli
Italy,
esempi,
we've
credo che il
had some
Prosecco,
examples.
proprio
I
così
think
come è
that
nato, per i
Prosecco,
motivi con
for
cui
the
è nato,
reasons it
io ho
originates,
seguito molto bene
I
perché
followed Prosecco
sono
very well
presidente del
because I'm the
Comitato
president of the
Nazionale
National
Vini del
Committee
Ministero dell'Agricoltura,
of Wines for the
dell'ente
Department of Agriculture,
ministeriale che dà
which is a
queste
ministerial
autorizzazioni in
agency
linea
which gives
denominazione
the authorization
d'origine, e so che appunto
for the
i produttori
certification.
veneti
I know
e
that
friulani
Friuli
stanno
and Veneto
lavorando
producers
molto
are
per
working
mantenere,
hard
queste
to
performance che
keep the
saranno
performance,
secondo me
which
ancora
I believe
migliorate nei
will
prossimi,
even
prossimi
improve
anni. Basti
over the
pensare
next
che
few
oggi
years.
Prosecco viene
Suffices to
prodotto
think
e
that Prosecco is
commercializzato
produced and
400
sold
milioni di bottiglie
400
nel
million
mondo,
bottles in the
ovviamente,
world,
e c'è un programma per
and
mantenere
there
la
is a
stessa
program
qualità, le
to
stesse
keep the same
caratteristiche,
quality and
possibilmente
characteristics,
anche gli stessi prezzi, sia
possibly
pur
also the
con
same
le
prices,
oscillazioni giuste
even
di
though there may be
mercato,
some
però
small
diciamo con un
variations,
incremento ulteriore che non va a discapito
in order
del
to
problema che lei ha
continue
suscitato.
to maintain the quality, avoid the problem that you mentioned.
More questions? No. So thank you very much. Even the Q&A has been very interesting. I want to finish acknowledging and thanking very much the most important partner we have in all this event, 2016, Vino 2016, that is Fiera Verona with Vinitaly, and here is represented by Stevie Kim. Stop tapping and stand up, Stevie, so everybody knows you. But anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Vinitaly. That is a very, very important event in Italy, but it's also a partner with the Italian Trade Commission all over the world, and we are very proud of this partnership. Vinitaly will organize 2 seminars dedicated to niche that is very important, talking about the champions like Prosecco, but also discovering edition by edition new Italian wines, not new, but Italian wines that are not still very popular. So thank you very much again. Repeat seminars for those that have booked their participation, and at 11 the grand tasting upstairs. Thank you very much again. Grazie.